Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with our professional organizers, Path Downsizing Solution Finders, and we're Pathfinders Downsizing Solution. I'm reading it wrong from the thing. See how I read it from your virtual background? Technically, I read it the wrong way. It's Pathfinders Downsizing Solutions. I should know better. Janeen and Renee, we've been talking for quite a few weeks now, and we're going to talk about their company in Tampa and so much more. But first and foremost, how was your Christmas and holidays? How's everything going?
We were just talking about it. We were so blessed. It was crazy. It was everything that Christmas is supposed to be.
Just what everybody expected for their fun with family.
Wonderful. Good. Same here. We had a good time, and now we're ready for the new year. My goodness. For those new listeners out there today, just tell us a little about your company and all the types of things you do. I know from senior moving to cluttering, there's a lot that you offer. Would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself and company?
Sure. Well, I will share that if you'd like to get a little bit more information about us, because it's kind of tough to say everything in a half hour, that you can call our 855-687-7284 is our toll-free number. You'll get either Janeen, myself, or one of our great managers, Angela. We also have the website, which is pathfindersdownsizing.com, or you can follow us. The only social we have is Facebook at Pathfinders Downsizing. We're not hip enough to have socials with an S.
Got it. And it's all about, downsizing, moving. How do we even start? There's a lot to our conversation. And for today, is this really our podcast number 7?
It is.
It is.
Wow. I didn't realize we've been talking so long. It goes so fast. What did you have in store for your listeners today?
Well, today we wanted to talk about another segment that we work with, and we have kind of coined the term of extreme content. So everybody accuses their mother or their grandmother of being a hoarder, and they've probably seen the show and all of that kind of stuff. But our girls are amazing. Our team is amazing because we don't flinch at that type of an environment. If it's a biohazard and stuff like that, that's a different conversation. That's a different level of expertise that we will refer our clients to when they need those solutions. But when it's just something, there's been a loss, it always seems like it's rooted in trauma, always. Mm-hmm. So they've had a loss and they just don't know how to kind of get the wheels back on the bus. And we can come alongside them, get them organized, help them, figure out what their next steps are and what's all the things that they have, which represent, if you really think about it, and when we're going to see mom and grandma and stuff like that at the holidays, if you think that that's kind of the scenario that you're walking into, put it in the terms, or think of it, reframe your brain to think about all the love that is actually represented there. It's holding on to things that represent people in their lives, the loves in their lives, the passions that they have, etc. And we help kind of weed through those things so that they can live in a safe environment and age in place a lot of times, or just be able to start fresh and start over again in a way that's going to serve them better so that they have a better life.
Yeah. And when you think about loss, everybody has a different, scenario that comes to mind. It could be the loss of the fact that you slipped and fell in the shower and now you were independent, and the new set of circumstances, you got discharged from rehab and you're using a walker or maybe a wheelchair. That's happening with a client today. We're on the search for a wheelchair for her because she's not the person we met a couple of weeks ago. And she went to rehab and now she's got a different environment. So now she's got 2 losses: the loss of the place she used to live with her husband, who passed away a little while ago, and now the loss, which could be a positive, that she's in an environment where more people are around. So sometimes it's just physical ability. Sometimes it can be a loved one, you've lost. And gosh, I keep thinking me and the hurricanes, but even the loss of what you had before Hurricane Ian came, or, different, environments. Lord knows what's going to happen to people up north with the cold snap. But all these different things, people will react differently depending on kind of where they're starting from, and kind of, like you said, the emotional agility of, do I have the muscle to be able to rebound and to move forward, or do I kind of get stuck in the quicksand and I don't know what to do from there?
I remember one of our first clients that was kind of in this kind of environment, and her scenario is very typical. She was caregiving for her husband, who was a dementia patient. She was working. That is I have been in that experience before, and that is a full-time job. And she wanted to take care of him, and she did. And then by the time he passed away, it was like 10 years that she was working as his caregiver full-time every day and trying to be a wife. And it was just a lot. Well, you can't do it all. So the thing that gets sacrificed is the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time he passed away, it's crumbling around her. And then it's so far gone, it's like hitting a tsunami. So it's not in a judgment. It's just the circumstances that we all have a journey in this life, and sometimes it's rougher than others. And this particular sweet lady did not have any children to support her or anything like that to come alongside and help with some heavy lifting, literally.
Right.
And so that's where we came in. We're able to get her in a better place.
Yeah.
So,
and it's tough. I mean, I had printed out I'm a fan of Marie Kondo, and her perspective really does work kind of across all generations and things like that. Now, her perspective is start from the least emotional to the most emotional. And we agree with that. But the challenge is she's got it very succinct, where other people, the most emotional may not be the area that you think. So I'm just going to read off what I printed off. She begins with clothes, saying that is the least emotional. I'll agree. Generally, that's pretty easy, unless it's a person who's passed away's clothes. But
okay. But it also could be depending on where the trauma is too. So for somebody that is emotionally, kind of has some emotional baggage with regards to their self-esteem, there might be a huge collection of jewelry and clothes and makeup and those kinds of things, because their identity is wrapped in that. So we've had clients where that was not where we started at all. We started in a different location. So it's reading and kind of understanding where the hurt is and saving that hurt spot for last.
And asking them, what is the easiest room for us to help you with? And then what is the room that you just want to close the door as soon as you walk in and just walk away? Helps us kind of help build momentum on going through their personal items. The next thing is really kind of like books and magazines and stuff like that. We have a lady today that's got all these old books that are kind of religious books, but when the quality of the item is in question. So we're going to try to take them all to a book that place that will take donations, but we don't know if they'll have another life or not. But we honored the fact that client, it was important to her, and so we're going to make sure
to someone that could maybe use them.
Yes. And I will say my personal challenge is papers. A lot of people, you struggle to say, what do you do with all this paperwork? We've got, I can't even say how many clients you walk in the office and it's this tall and it's everywhere. Now, some people can tell you exactly where something is, but that's a far and few between. Most of the time, it's just, I don't even know where to begin, because I kind of didn't know where to begin when I started. And so we'll come in and say, let's come up with some organizational ideas. Maybe it's just some furniture pieces that will help you organize it. And then the next place that she says is things that are more like you were talking about, CDs and DVDs. Come on, folks, nobody wants your old movies from the 20 years ago. Electronics, what we do is we try to recycle those. So what's great is you don't want to go in the trash, but somebody can repurpose that. They'll pick them up, and what of the electronics can be reused, it'll go and be more of a environmentally positive thing. Even like household items, you would be surprised. We work with a homeless veterans place, and if you've got like shampoo half used, you didn't like it, and you've got some laundry detergent or whatever, they'll take stuff that's already been opened, those little travel shampoo things and all. And if you're homeless and you're living on a street,
how many do we have? I know from traveling and all, I have all the little samples, and they're still in it. What am I doing with them?
Yeah,
nothing.
And then kitchen stuff, like, I mean, I know they do that comes like your the pantry cleaning they do around the holidays. I always go through and I say, oh, if I'm not going to use this in the next little bit, let me just give it away. But we also can donate that to food pantries, to the homeless veterans and things like that. And then the last is sentimental items. And that's a broad spectrum. And depending on who you're talking about, sentimental items can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah. So a lot of times, just to kind of go back a little bit too, when it comes to the kitchenware and stuff like that, when that can be blessed forward, it makes a shift in people's emotional state when they know that their stuff is going to be treasured and loved on by somebody else. And it's a foster care kid that's aging out, or a family that's trying to take more siblings, then that, and there's going to be family gathered on those plates, that's such a cool thing, because they just get the piece to release it. They realize that, yeah, I can't use it anymore, but it's not going to waste. It's not ending up in a landfill. Somebody is going to honor my stuff. And a lot of times they've asked or expected their kids to, and the kids are like, I can't, I'm already choking on my own stuff. I don't think that we've ever shared with you, Jill, that, remember Little House on the Prairie? Do you remember that show?
Of course, I remember Laura Ingalls. Yes.
Yeah. Right. And then Happy Days. Okay. Remember watching Happy Days? Okay. That span of time is 80 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Exactly.
Happy Days is that old? No.
Well, no, it's just that between Ma Ingalls gave Laura 2 dresses, and one was for Sunday and one was for every day. And Pa passed his suit down to the generations, and it was well made, and it lasted for generations. And then Happy Days, where everybody's driving their car to the sock hop, and they're putting a quarter in the jukebox kind of thing, and all of the lights and everything. That's 80 years
of American history.
That's bananas. So there's the Industrial Revolution, World War I, World War II, manufacturing, trade deals, everything leaving the United States, importation. I mean, it just goes on and on. And plus, the reason that we as Americans were in love with all of our stuff, but we have the space to put our stuff. Geographically, some of the smaller countries, they go up, but they still stay tiny because there's so many people crammed into a small piece of land. Whereas we have that elbow room to kind of spread out and have houses that start off to be, the average house in 1950, I think, was 1,100 square feet, about 300 square foot per person in the family. And now we're up to like 4,000 square feet and 1,000 per person. I mean, it's just crazy. We've got nothing but elbow room here, and we just fill it and fill it and fill it with stuff. So
and it's unfortunate. So you could have a very small home that is absolutely full to the brim, but you could have a large home that's very full into the brim. And one thing we learned very quickly is do not do that book by the cover, because there's one particular home that Janeen went to.
We judge the book.
Yes. Because
I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
Oh no. So when you're looking at a book at the store and you're like, oh, that cover's beautiful, it's going to be a great book. Or you look at an old book and it's all beat down, you think, oh, that's not going to be a good book. That's kind of the same
judge a book by its cover.
That Janeen went to one house, I mean, and you found like in the armoire, there were snacks stacked on top of each other of paper plates in this stunning home from the outside. But there were snackies for days in the armoire with clothes. And so then you can go to a trailer and think, oh, Lord, what do I have in store? And I've been to some and they're neat as a pin. Yeah. So you just, it's interesting. You just,
everybody's different, and everybody comes from, it never fails. It always comes from a place of trauma.
Yep.
So we always kind of couch our delivery, our care, whatever you want to talk, kind of how you want to phrase it with the clients, to be, we're not coming from a place of judgment. We just want to help. You need some heavy lifting for your heart, and then physically to do the work, because every single thing in the home has an emotional decision, emotional reality and decision, cognitive decision to do what to do with the thing, and then the physical effort to do whatever it is you decide. That's a lot of wear and tear. And if you've
Wow.
already gone through a loss with somebody because, you know, you've lived in that house for 20 plus years, it's hard. It's hard.
And I would
And
say
it's even hard for the families too,
yeah,
because they get, it just stirs kind of a pot of just hard, you know, just a hard emotional road that the families traveled, whether they were together at the time or separated, and they have to come together for it. And it just hurts. It just hurts.
So it doesn't matter if it's a person who has extreme content or, you know, an average Joe. We're going to break it down into stages. So one of the things that's nice about something that is an extreme content is we know we're first going to look into the safety of the people working in there, the safety of the family members in there. But then we're going to say, okay, how can we get some space to work? I have one that we could only get in the one door and you couldn't get out the front door. And so our whole goal was let's make our way to the space so then the front door is open, which allows us to get things out of that area, which is a straighter shot. So a lot of times it is just kind of taking and breaking up into little manageable parts and saying, okay, how are we going to tackle this? And we set it up where, you know, we got that space empty. We made a little area that the family could go through. And as we found little treasures that we could be like, because they told us we needed to look for some things, but kind of, you know, how to you know, leave it for them and realize
so they can process it
Right.
as well.
Right.
When we find those treasures, those things that are on their Where's Waldo list is what we kind of call it, then we put that aside so that they can evaluate it, but they're not looking at the whole thing and they're overwhelmed by the whole thing. We kind of put it off to the side so the environment is quieter, it's just more focused, and then they can do that. For that client, we recovered over $13,000 in cash that his mom had kind of squirreled away into nooks and crannies and
jewelry
stuff.
and
all
bonds,
kinds of things. But it was a really cool thing for him, because when we were done with it, he walked about 3 inches taller, because this whole house was looming on him. And he was able to really change the legacy. There was a lot of trauma in the family generationally, and he was able to change the legacy because of his donations. We still had an estate sale. He was able to recover a lot of things. So it just, every scenario was a little bit different, but we just come in and just look at it kind of in a loving way as to how can we make your next chapter better, increase your function, make sure that there's certainly egress and safety, but there's efficient function for you, and you can age in place and you can be independent.
Oh, yeah.
We're all about that. Where, you know, sometimes people think that because we're senior move managers and we help people downsize and move and resettle, that we're not about, you know, aging in place. But we love it when we can help a client stay longer in their home.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful.
And sometimes it's really just design ideas on how to store those items more efficiently. It's tough. I mean, some homes, especially bathrooms, you know, there's just this, you can look at it and go, oh my gosh, there's so much vertical space that you could have for storage. And that's one thing that's interesting, knowing Janeen and working with her design assistant, is, you know, a lot of times you don't look up. And if you kind of go up, there's all this space that you could use to hold things and you could put shelves, you could, you know, put art, you know, just depending on the space. And so that's one of the interesting things I would say with the stream content is they don't even see their walls anymore. And so things just get lost. And so by being able to kind of unbury the things that, you know, matter now and discard the things that don't matter any longer, they're kind of reinventing the space a little bit.
And really reinventing themselves, because this is the opportunity that they have to kind of start their life over again and get a reboot, you know, and give themselves more time to socially engage or explore and grow spiritually, or with new hobbies or new groups that they can engage in, and kind of come out of the reclusiveness that typically is also you know, that kind of goes tandem to this sometimes. And
it's almost shame.
Sometimes that, you know, and re-engage with their family, to have their family over, where the family and their grandkids weren't able to come over before because it wasn't a safe environment. And there is nothing. I mean, we just had a weekend where everybody was kind of gathered around that Christmas table, and the Hanukkah table and just enjoying each other. And there's nothing like that. So to give that gift back to somebody where they can have people into their home and have those memories start anew. Oh my God. It's so cool.
And the other thing we often tell people, especially if we're working with them this time of year, is why don't you start asking your loved ones, is this a plate that you've always loved and I've served the cake on it for years? Well, now you can pass it on to them. All different things like that. It's like start giving those things to your loved ones now, because the challenge is, if it is an extreme content home, often those things are not in the shape they were previously. And so they could end up being discarded because they've gotten chipped or
but then at the same time, there might be something that is of value. We had a client that we were working with just yesterday. We were talking about before the podcast started, and she newly divorced, and she wanted to get rid of her wedding ring. And what's the method of doing that? We don't sell our clients stuff because we feel it's a conflict of interest, but we do have relationships with the right people to get rid of those specialty items so we can make those introductions for them. We've already vetted them. We know that they're trustworthy and stuff like that. And especially because our clients are typically older. Right. This one happens to be younger, but she didn't have the vehicle. She didn't have that avenue as to who do I trust and how do I go about cashing in this ring so that, because I'm done with it. I'm just emotionally, I don't want it to have it anymore, and I'm ready to let go. So connecting all of those dots for people. And, so if there is something that's specialized or, a specialty item or whatever, we will do our best to try and get that our clients connected to a special subject matter specialist that can help them liquidate it or monetize it.
Well, you were just doing some research for a client that wanted to do some consignment selling of items.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of people in the vicinity that we knew, and a couple of people
they tend to be geosensitive.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
But yeah, just kind of hook it up so that they can do it. We find that a lot of times our clients, once you retire, all those connections to the network of people that the relationships and stuff like that, it seemed to kind of float away like little balloons, a painter or a handyman or whatever. And we have a huge network of those types of specialists and more across the Bay Area and even nationally, just depending on what the item and the need is, to be able to connect you to the resources so that they can get things done or monetize things, just depending on what they're facing.
Yeah, if we try to do a list of all the services we have offered, it'd be very long because you just never
different.
know.
Yeah, everybody's different. So, anyway, so Jill, do you have any more questions with us?
Well, for someone like me talking about extremes, I have a 5 and 7-year-old, but I still have all their baby toys, their baby stuff in my attic, their baby clothes up until 2T, 3T, 4T, and I have piles around my house and in the attic, and I'm just overwhelmed with it. And I don't know where I'm supposed to donate the stuff to, because I feel like
foster care, 100%. Because a lot of times the kids are plucked out. It's an emergency situation. Mm-hmm. Foster care adoptive families usually get maybe 12 hours, if they're lucky, 12 hours notice. They usually have kind of a range. They will, as they sign up and get certified to be foster families, they have, they'll pick like, okay, I'm equipped mentally or physically to be able to do like babies to 3. And so they have like emergency closets that have babies to 3. So they've got diapers in all those age ranges and weight classes, if you will, and some toys and stuff like that. But then they get them, and it's only something that they have enough to kind of get them started for like 48 hours. Mm-hmm. But if it goes past 48 hours, then it's, oh, snap. I need school supplies. If I've got kids that are at school age, I need toys that are going, that are more encompassing than just something to entertain somebody for 48 hours, and clothes certainly, and all that kind of stuff.
And I would also say domestic violence
same thing,
places, because these kids are getting plucked out of an environment and they have nothing. I was at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they were sharing, some of these homeless kids are sharing a toothbrush with their siblings. The kids just would like socks or underwear, things like that. I mean, the things that we just like, really? And so there's so many nonprofits that are probably local to you that would just be tickled pink to be able to get blessed with those items that are just sitting in your attic, aging away. So I would say, if anything, we hope these podcasts do is motivate people to be like, you know what? There are a lot of people that are less fortunate, and don't just tuck it away and have it degrade, but send it to do some homework, do a Google search for nonprofits that could use these items, because you just cannot imagine some of the circumstances we hear
Usually
about.
foster care, as they're moving through the system, they're going from one home to another, they usually get about 10 minutes in a garbage bag. And then at 18, they're supposed to age out and be able to be self-sufficient in their own apartment. And they haven't had squat.
Mhm.
And all the trauma that accompanies with them. Sometimes that trauma, the personality is able to kind of turn that into an amazing story. But a lot of times they've got to weed through a lot of emotional baggage in order to heal themselves through it. And having just plates, a bed.
Just a
Gosh,
bed.
that's a
Yeah.
game changer.
I have brand new pillows that for my kids' room that I never used. Yeah, and I need to start making the time to get rid of it. And it upsets me because I have so much stuff, and I'm feeling overwhelmed like a hoarder, because there's literally this one room in my house. It's a spare room, and I have all my kids' clothes in there. It's just piles and piles, and I just haven't had time to donate it. Where am I going to donate it? And so now it's foster agencies I can Google around. I live on Long Island in New York, so I guess I could do that. And
And
shelters
domestic violence.
And
Yeah.
get your kids involved too, because they're old enough to understand what
that we're giving.
what
Yes.
it is to, and that's a wonderful teaching opportunity for the kids too, that they can engage in. And also, it helps them to understand, gosh, if I don't want this toy anymore, or if I can give it, I can, and then even intentionally shopping for those kids and stuff like that, adopt a family, all that kind of stuff too. So there's lots of solutions to kind of redirect the energies so that it's blessing for
Absolutely. And I mean, and even it could be an interesting exercise to kind of have them help you sort through and say, this is, boys here to this age, and then this is girls this age to this age. And then when you reach out to a nonprofit, like, oh gosh, we really need blank, then you're like, I've got that for you. And then put the kids in the car and we're taking a road trip. But it is something that you do find, if you can teach the young people early, that if this is not serving you any longer, if it's not serving our family any longer, and we bless it forward, it's doing two things. One, it is reducing the clutter, but it is also showing really a difference in the shift of the value of stuff.
Yeah, because I heard some horror stories about giving to, I'm not going to quote the exact name, I don't want to say it, but I don't know if it was Goodwill or Salvation Army, but then they turn them around, they sell them in a store. Like, I want to give them to someone who can use right away and not be sold. And I don't know how that works.
Well,
That's why
and it's nothing against those organizations. It's just they built a brand.
Okay.
And building a brand, it got so big, how do you even process it? So it's a donation processing center. And that's what their lane is, basically large amounts of stuff that they get every single day. But when you can do a little extra work and find those nonprofits, those smaller ones in the community, they're the ones doing the heavy lifting. They're the ones that are there in the middle of the night, making sure that the babies have blankets and they've got diapers and they've got formula.
And even like if you redo your decor in your bathroom and you have these other towels or old towels or whatever, donate it to Humane Society or whomever. We do that all the time. They're thrilled to get used, towels and stuff like that, but you just don't think about it. But we really try to find whoever we can provide these items to. We try to sort it in a manner that there's as little as possible goes in the trash. And I mean, and the staff is really the ones that are just the queens and kings of it, because they kind of know who will take this, or they'll call and say, are you taking this now?
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Would you mind sharing your website and contact information before we go?
Absolutely. Check us out on pathfindersdownsizing.com. And then you can call us too. That's 855-687-7284 or 855-R-PATH. You can do that. And then also on Facebook, you can like us on Facebook. That's Pathfinders Downsizing. and we're good to go.
Great. Thank you guys again today for a great conversation. And I guess we'll be talking in the new year. So I'll see you. We'll see you next year. We'll talk then. Thank you for today.
Okay.
Very informative session. As always, I can't believe it's been number 7. Thank you again. Happy, healthy New Year to you all. And we'll talk again next year.
Happy New
Wow.
Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, ladies.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.